all of us go through periods where we just unintentionally spiral down. I was going through a bit of a rut. It started when my granddad passed away, which I simply wasn't really prepared for. Yeah, I definitely wasn't ready for that. I don't think anybody is in that situation, to be honest. Then I was fairly bit behind with some qualifications I'm supposed to do in my 9 to 5. One of those things where you're supposed to do throughout the year, but I just end up saving it all until 3 weeks before the review. During all of this time, my ex and I broke up. Then we got back together, then we broke up again. And I guess we kind of got back together and then we broke up again. Cool. Didn't learn my lesson the first time, so, third time's a charm. At the same time, I was trying to start a marketing agency. I didn't really know anything about it, to be honest, so I didn't really know how to sell. I didn't really know how to deliver service. Yeah, I didn't know how to use any of the software, but I was kind of just figuring it out. Yeah, this was incredibly stressful. All of the above definitely made it 10 times more difficult. And on top of all of this, I wasn't really making any YouTube videos, so I felt very overwhelmed with everything more or less happening at the same time. I didn't really know where to start, and instead I did nothing. I was feeling incredibly anxious, constantly stressed. I just didn't feel good day to day. So naturally I just kind of ran away and escaped and self-medicate myself, make myself feel a bit better by watching YouTube, TV shows. Spend about 5 to 7 hours per day looking at my phone, which itself is just a massive issue. I more or less stopped working out and spend a lot more time inside instead. Spending way too much time looking at screens before bed, sometimes even having 3 to 4 hours of sleep. Overall, I felt kind of like far behind in life, and then felt like, what even is the point, These negative habits built up on top of each other, and so it causes me to start moving in the wrong direction, and then all of this starts to compound against you, and you kind of slowly spiral down. It's so important you catch yourself kind of going down, and you tell yourself enough's enough. Here's a good quote: change happens when the pain of staying the same becomes greater when the pain of change. And at that point, you kind of naturally just start to act. So you catch yourself, you say enough is enough, and you slowly, very slowly, start moving in the opposite direction. Firstly, we have to fully understand that the start is always going to be the hardest. The first steps are by far the most difficult, so appreciate that. It depends where you're at, of course, but sometimes even getting out of bed and making your own bed is a huge step in the right direction. The activation energy required right at the very start is a lot greater, and once you start moving and momentum's on your side, things just become a lot easier. Just a little step in that direction will help you to make the next step in the right direction, and before you know it, you're slowly starting to walk. Okay, and here's 5 principles, 5 steps that will help me to start moving in the direction and start walking again. Okay, so point number 1 is cornerstone habits. So what are the habits, these cornerstone habits, which if you do just them, make everything else just 10 times easier? These are very obvious, but sometimes it's good to be reminded. So it's sleep and exercise. It's crazy how much change you can actually see by simply focusing on good quality sleep and then some form of exercise. These are typically the first things to go. What I notice in myself is I tend to spend a lot more time in front of screens. Quality of sleep just deteriorates. Then I stop exercising. I'll go for walks less, I do less steps. For me, you want to go to sleep between 10 and 11 p.m. and then follow the 3-2-1 rule. So no food 3 hours before sleep, and then no water 2 hours before sleep, and then no screens 1 hour before sleep. And then I want to sleep between 7.5 and then 9 hours. And then I want to be waking up between 6 and 7 a.m. And then with exercise, I try to go at least 3 times per week. Sometimes if I'm feeling lazy, like I just don't have the energy, I like to just outsource my motivation, outsource this accountability. This is as close as to a hack as you can really get. So let's say you either have a gym buddy, but sometimes it's quite difficult, so you might want to try out like social workouts. Like by that I mean, let's say starting to go to jiu-jitsu, or maybe start doing CrossFit, or start going to gym classes, or like the other stuff I got here, let's say run clubs, park runs, and things along those lines, is where your accountability is tied into activity itself. So you have certain like time slots where you signed up for them, and then you gotta turn up, and I find like things like that to be incredibly useful, especially at the start when I'm trying to build momentum. The other half of it is just walking more. So let's say you can look in your health app on your iPhone. I assume there's going to be something similar on Android as well, and then have a look at the amount of steps you're taking, and then every day you want to just try and increase it by, let's say, 1,000 steps. And then over time you want to build yourself up to, let's say, 8,000 steps. And then I try to do anywhere between 8,000 to 20,000 steps per day. So I find that when I sleep well, when I exercise, I sleep better, and when I sleep better, I feel better. So I want to exercise more, and I just want to do more things. It'd be so much easier for you to tackle other problems in your life when these two are dialed in. Right, I've got a meeting in literally 1 minute, but I will be back very quickly. I'm back. Just had a funny meeting. Turns out my line manager's leaving, which I was not really expecting, but yeah, it is what it is. Yeah, just an odd meeting really. Okay, cool. Now let's come back to this. Where were we? The second point is focus on the small steps. At the start, you need to forget about trying to run, forget where you were before, trying to juggle 50 things at the same time. Focus on a single step every day. Focus on just one step at a time. As I mentioned before, the start of anything is by far the hardest. The activation energy required just to simply start moving is so much greater than what is required to keep yourself moving or to even speed up. So I appreciate that you're actually doing the hardest thing. It's not going to be easy. It's not meant to be easy. These small steps and these smallest actions, you're going to look back at yourself and be so grateful that you actually made them in the first place. You can start by going on a 30-minute walk every day, and if you can't go on a 30-minute walk every day, go on a simple 5-minute walk. That's a start. And over time, just build it up. That's whether it takes you 3 months or 3 weeks, it does not matter. Maybe at the gym, if you want to break the steps down, let's say you can't get yourself to go for an hour, but simply just, as I was saying before, just go for 5 minutes. As the weeks progress, then you can start going for 10 minutes, maybe 20 later down the line, but yeah, keep the steps very small. You simply turning up to a gym or class after not going for months or maybe even years is an absolute win. Even 5 minutes of you turning up to a gym is a win. And now the main thing is you want to build up on these small wins. There's no such thing as just overnight success. It's simply small steps, small actions compounded over a long period of time. The real success or failure lies in everyday action, the small steps all of us take. These small decisions which are very easy to do and as easy not to do. These small steps, small actions compound over weeks, months, years, decades. These changes don't notice day to day because they're just so small. It's not until you actually zoom out over months and years you can truly appreciate the amount of progress you've actually made. So what you want to do, take the small steps and make sure that you're tracking the small steps. Like what I have is I have a little calendar, and I kind of populate a little calendar with little habits I'm trying to track, and then yeah, just kind of like tick them off over time so I can see that I'm making progress. And good books will talk about this in a lot of detail. Obviously Atomic Habits, which a lot of you probably know, and another book is called The Slight Edge. Okay, cool. Point number 3 is celebrate the small wins. Now that you're making small steps in the right direction, start to pat yourself on the back for the progress you're making. At the start, have some sort of habit track, as I was saying before, and then keep some sort of gratitude journal as well. The more you're grateful for, the more things you will see to be grateful for. And over time, the more things will come into your life to be grateful for. There's this thing called the reticular activating system, which is your selective focus. There's so much stimuli for your brain to take all at once, so you can only take in so much at the same time. And your selective focus, your RAS, decides what you take in. So if the only thing you can think about, only thing you can focus on negativity, all the things which are going wrong in the world, this is what you will see. And in turn, you will attract more of that because that's the thing you're looking for in your day-to-day life. And the funny thing is, like, this day and century is the safest, the most affluent time to be alive, really. But yet, there's always things to be negative, to be down about. Okay, to highlight this point, let's do this exercise. So you want to sit down, or actually, to be honest, it doesn't matter as long as you're not driving. Just have a look around wherever you're at, whether it's a room, whether it's the outdoors or whatever, and just have a look around and notice all the blue things you can see. So this is kind of navy blue, whatever. I can see that book just behind you, behind the camera is blue. Yeah, there's a bunch of random stuff just blue here. Okay, cool. Now you've got those blue things in your head, you want to close your eyes. Keep thinking about those blue things. Now we've closed the eyes, I want you to try and remember all the red things you saw. Okay, cool. Now you can see that that's not as easy because you're not looking for those red things. Again, you can open your eyes now. So this kind of highlights the point is, whatever you focus on, you will see more of. Quite simple when you think about it. And the same can be applied here. So you want to try and actively look for all the good things in the world. Look for small, tiny little wins. By you looking for these small wins, for things which are going right, the positive things in the world, you'll start to see a lot more good in the world, and in return, a lot more good will start happening to you. And in regards to small wins and then taking action, like, you're not every day is going to be perfect, and that's just the way it is. Sometimes you got to take 3 steps forward and 6 steps back. You know, sometimes you might take 5 steps forward and 1 step back. That's absolutely fine. Not a single person I know who achieved great things in life. Nobody had a linear progress curve. It goes like this and it goes like this. I'll put some sort of graphic here to kind of like better highlight it. But yeah, it's totally okay to go 5 steps forward and then 10 steps back. It's just part of the journey, as long as you don't stop and continue to put one foot in front of the other and move forward, even if it's just a little bit at a time, just a small tiny step every day. You'll only lose if you stop. Point number 4, do it together. It's a lot easier to achieve things. There is some sort of accountability involved. I recently started to schedule co-work sessions, like power hours, once or twice a day with one of my friends who's kind of like into similar stuff. So he's trying to do a web design, create a web design agency. I'm trying to do this whole like marketing agency. We scheduled a few hours after work to have power hours, quote unquote. We focus on the most important, I guess, high leverage task of the day. Then to add to this, during summer, we had an hour where we did call calling during lunches. So I did 20 calls, he did 20 calls. If it wasn't for that, I would probably justified because of something happened at work or whatever, you know, I just didn't feel like it. It was justified for me just not to do the call calls. But instead, because I knew I had to turn up to these sessions, we're like, okay, cool, like I've got some sort of accountability, I'm going to do the calls, or I'm going to do the power hour, the high leverage activity task in the evenings, even though I really didn't want to. It's very easy for me to say, oh, I'll just do it tomorrow. This could be said for doing the call calls, because again, I just felt uncomfortable doing the calls, and if it wasn't for those sessions, I definitely would have done them. Even after work, I was just like, you know what, I just want to relax, or I just want to watch some TV, or maybe go for a run, go to the gym, you know, just let world more or less slide by. But because I had those power hours, couple of hours during the evenings, like, okay, it's like I knew that I'm going to be doing something. As I started doing that, all of a sudden I started to get a lot more work done. And yeah, I have no idea why it took me so long to kind of like figure this out, because intuitively I obviously already like knew this. All of us really know this. As soon as I started having these co-work sessions with Adam, it just made things just a lot easier. We created this joint calendar where I put my schedule, he puts his schedule, and we just kind of like co-figure sometimes where we can just go on Google Meets and then do some work together. And yeah, this works really well. At the end of the week, we would have a review just to see how our week went, and then set targets for the following week. I'm trying to find ways to make it life easier. Like, of course, I can use willpower just to work, but at the start, like when you're kind of trying to get out of a rut or trying to learn something new, you do tend to procrastinate just because it is difficult, or you find it difficult. But once you actually start doing the thing, it just becomes a lot easier. So having these power hours, co-work sessions, it's just simplifying things. So stop trying to overcomplicate it and then like calling yourself like whatever word you want to call yourself, lazy or whatever, for not being able to do the work by yourself. Just, man, it's fine to have like a co-work session, you know, it just makes lives easier, and it just kind of adds some sort of like social element to all of this as well. This could be linked to some points before. So this whole like social accountability thing is incredibly useful. Let's say going to the gym, becoming more fit is your priority, so you maybe sign up for some sort of gym classes, or start doing CrossFit, or maybe jiu-jitsu. It's like I have a tendency to stay up late, A, and then B, I have a tendency to kind of lay in bed and snooze in the mornings. So let's say I have to be at a CrossFit session at 6 a.m. I will be motivated to go to sleep early, so I have enough sleep. And then secondly, I'll be motivated to get up early, get up on time, and not lay around because I have a commitment to actually go to. Yes, stop relying on willpower and organize your life in a way where you have accountability drawn into the tasks. This is what I think I'm relatively good at, just outsourcing my willpower entirely, and then having some sort of accountability, just steps in place, which more or less forces me to do the thing I'm trying to avoid. Cool. Point number 5 is do nothing. It's so easy to mask how you're feeling about something, to run away from being uncomfortable by binge watching YouTube or tapping one out, or consuming substances, whether it's alcohol or like wherever else. Whatever your escapism of choices, you are simply running away from the problems, some things which you know you need to do. Instead of procrastinating, what works really well is just simply doing absolutely nothing. You want to get bored, you want to turn your phone off, turn your devices off, put them very far away. We'll split this into two 30-minute sections. Start by staring at the wall for 30 minutes, or you can just meditate for 30 minutes. So no guided meditations, you literally just sitting still like this, looking at a wall, and just kind of like notice what thoughts start to arise. At the first 30 minute, you have a notebook close by to you. Anything which pops up into your head, which it inevitably will, you can just write it down. When you don't have this constant stimulation, your brain will more or less start to create it just by itself. So you want to trap this kind of excitement, these thoughts you have on paper. Whatever comes up, whether it makes sense, whether it doesn't make sense, just write it down. Then after those 30 minutes have passed and all the thoughts you have in your head are being dumped on paper, then you want to put that notepad away and then go back to doing meditation, now without a notepad, for the next 30 minutes. And then after those 30 minutes have passed, pick up the notepad and then start writing things down again. Again, firstly, just a brain dump, like whatever you're feeling, write it down. For me, by getting bored and removing distraction, it helps me to get some sort of clarity over the things which I've been avoiding. So 2 30-minute chunks might be a lot for some people, but that what works for me. Maybe you want to just see what happens with you, maybe try a bit less, maybe try a bit more, but I reckon like an hour of like total meditation time is quite a good start point. And if you want to go to the complete extreme, check out like silent meditation retreats. I did one of these detoxes, meditation retreats, whatever you want to call them, a little while ago. The one I did was a Vipassana one. So basically it's a silent 10-day meditation retreat. So no speaking, no stimulation, no making eye contact really, no journaling, no reading. It's simply just meditating 1 hour at a time and 5 times a day, maybe even more sometimes. Everything you're doing is walking and eating, and your biggest form of stimulation is literally your dreams. So you get some crazy dreams. If you're feeling very uninspired, like you're in the ruts, try going on one of these retreats and see how much just drive and spark it will create inside you, and how much inspiration you will actually get as a result of it. Whatever you find useful, just take those points and then remove the rest, you know? Okay, cool. So one of the things I've been recently doing is trying to start this whole marketing agency. I've actually got the episode 1 right here. So if you haven't checked it out yet, go for it. Otherwise, I will see you again soon.